In the early 1980s, if you worked with databases on a personal computer, you knew one name above all others: Ashton-Tate. The company behind dBase held an iron grip on the database software market that seemed absolutely unbreakable. At their peak in 1986, they commanded 85% of the PC database market, generating revenues of over $200 million annually. Their flagship product, dBase, wasn't just software. It was the database language that defined an entire generation of computing. Businesses, developers, and hobbyists alike spoke dBase like a native tongue. Yet within 5 years, this database colossus would be acquired by rival Borland for a mere $440 million. Its market share in ruins, its reputation destroyed, and its future erased. This is the story of how Ashton-Tate snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, transforming absolute dominance into total irrelevance through a catastrophic series of legal missteps, technical failures, and strategic blunders that would become a cautionary tale for the entire software industry. The foundation of Ashton-Tate's empire began not in Silicon Valley boardrooms, but in the modest surroundings of Wayne Ratliff's garage in 1978. Ratliff, a former NASA contractor working at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, needed a way to track statistics for his softball league and couldn't find suitable database software for his CPM computer. Driven by necessity, he created his own solution, initially calling it Vulcan after the Roman god of fire and metalworking. The program was revolutionary for its time. It allowed users to create, modify, and query databases using relatively simple commands, bringing database functionality to personal computers for the first time. However, Ratliff lacked the business acumen and marketing resources to commercialize his creation effectively. Enter George Tate, a former NASA engineer turned entrepreneur, and Hal Lashlee, who together recognized the commercial potential of Ratliff's creation. In 1980, they formed a partnership, purchased the rights to Vulcan, and founded Ashton-Tate. The Ashton came from Tate's middle name, while Tate was his surname. They renamed the software dBase 2, deliberately skipping version 1 to suggest the product was mature and tested, a clever marketing move that would set the tone for their aggressive business tactics. Under Tate's leadership, Ashton-Tate transformed dBase from a programmer's tool into a commercial juggernaut. The company's timing proved impeccable. They launched just as the IBM PC was revolutionizing business computing in 1981. dBase 2 filled a crucial gap in the market, offering businesses their first real database solution for personal computers. Unlike mainframe databases that required specialized knowledge and enormous resources, dBase democratized database computing, allowing small businesses and individual users to organize and manipulate data with unprecedented ease. The software's success stemmed from its innovative command structure and programming language, which allowed users to create custom applications without extensive programming knowledge. By 1983, dBase 2 was generating $50 million in annual revenue, and Ashton-Tate had established itself as one of the big three software companies alongside Lotus and Microsoft. The company's growth seemed unstoppable. They expanded internationally, opened offices across Europe and Asia, and built a vast network of dealers and distributors. Their success attracted top talent from across the industry, and by 1985, Ashton-Tate employed over 800 people worldwide. George Tate had transformed a garage project into a global software empire in less than 5 years. However, beneath the surface of this remarkable success story, fundamental problems were already taking root. George Tate's sudden death from a heart attack in August 1984 at just 40 years old left the company without its visionary leader and primary strategic mind. The board appointed Ed Esber, a former marketing executive from VisiCorp, as the new CEO, but Esber lacked Tate's technical background and deep understanding of the database market. More critically, Ashton-Tate's relationship with Wayne Ratliff, the original creator of dBase, began to deteriorate significantly. Ratliff had continued working as the chief architect of dBase evolution, but he grew increasingly frustrated with corporate interference in technical decisions and pressure to rush products to market before they were ready. The company's corporate culture shifted from innovation-focused to sales-driven, prioritizing short-term revenue over long-term product development. This change would prove catastrophic as competitors began emerging with superior technology. Additionally, Ashton-Tate's success had bred complacency. They believed their market dominance was permanent and failed to invest adequately in research and development. While companies like Microsoft were pouring resources into next-generation database technologies, Ashton-Tate was content to milk their existing products for maximum profit, a decision that would soon haunt them. The first major crack in Ashton-Tate's armor appeared with the disastrous launch of dBase 4 in 1988. After years of delays and development problems, the company finally released what they promised would be their masterpiece, a powerful, network-ready database that would cement their dominance for another decade. Instead, dBase 4 became one of the most infamous software failures of the 1980s. The initial release, version 1.0, was plagued with over 1,500 documented bugs, making it virtually unusable for serious business applications. The network functionality, heavily promoted as a key selling point, was so unreliable that it frequently corrupted data or crashed entirely. Database files created in dBase 4 often became corrupted without warning, causing businesses to lose critical data. The software was also significantly slower than its predecessor, dBase 3 Plus, making it feel like a downgrade rather than an improvement. Customer complaints flooded in immediately, with users reporting lost data, system crashes, and incompatibility issues with existing dBase applications. The computer press, once friendly to Ashton-Tate, turned hostile, with PC Magazine calling dBase 4 a disaster and InfoWorld warning readers to avoid the software entirely. The company's stock price plummeted as news of the problem spread, falling from over $30 per share to under $15 within months of the release. Sales ground to a halt as existing customers refused to upgrade and new customers chose competitor products instead. Compounding the dBase iVoid disaster was Ashton-Tate's increasingly aggressive and ultimately self-destructive legal strategy. Even before the technical problems became apparent, the company had embarked on a series of lawsuits that would alienate customers, partners, and the broader software development community. In 1987, Ashton-Tate filed a copyright infringement lawsuit against Fox Software, claiming that Fox's Fox-based product violated dBase copyrights. This lawsuit was particularly controversial because many in the industry believed that programming languages and command structures should not be subject to copyright protection. The case dragged on for years, consuming enormous resources and creating uncertainty throughout the database market. Developers who had built careers around dBase compatibility suddenly feared legal action, causing many to abandon the platform entirely. More damaging still was Ashton-Tate's lawsuit against Santa Cruz Operation and others, claiming copyright ownership of the X-based command structure that had become an industry standard. The company argued that any software using dBase compatible commands was violating their intellectual property, effectively attempting to claim ownership of what had become the common language of PC databases. This legal aggression backfired spectacularly when competitors and industry groups rallied together to challenge Ashton-Tate's claims, arguing that the company was attempting to monopolize fundamental programming concepts that should remain in the public domain. The legal strategy proved not only unsuccessful but actively destructive to Ashton-Tate's business interests. In 1990, a federal judge ruled that Ashton-Tate could not claim copyright protection for the dBase command structure, dealing a fatal blow to their intellectual property claims. The ruling established that programming languages and command structures were functional elements that could not be copyrighted, setting an important precedent for the entire software industry. However, the damage to Ashton-Tate was already irreversible. The years of legal battles had drained the company's resources, diverted management attention from product development, and created an atmosphere of hostility toward the brand. Customers who had once been loyal advocates became bitter enemies, viewing the company as a legal bully trying to extract money from the ecosystem it had helped create. The developer community, which had been crucial to dBase's success, largely abandoned the platform for competitors who offered similar functionality without legal threats. Meanwhile, companies like Microsoft, Borland, and Fox Software were gaining ground rapidly with superior products and more developer-friendly policies. Microsoft's Access was emerging as a serious threat, offering graphical database design and seamless integration with other Office applications. Borland's Paradox was winning over power users with advanced features and better performance. Fox Software, ironically one of Ashton-Tate's lawsuit targets, was growing rapidly by offering dBase compatibility with superior speed and reliability. By 1990, Ashton-Tate's position had become untenable. Market share that had once stood at 85% had fallen below 30% and was declining rapidly. The company's reputation for quality and innovation had been replaced by a perception of legal aggression and technical incompetence. Multiple attempts to fix dBase 4 had failed to restore customer confidence, and each new release seemed to introduce new problems while failing to address existing ones. The rise of Windows-based computing was creating additional challenges, as dBase remained primarily a DOS-based product while competitors were developing sophisticated Windows applications. Ashton-Tate's attempts to create Windows versions of their software were consistently delayed and ultimately unsuccessful, allowing Microsoft access to capture the emerging Windows database market almost unopposed. The company's financial situation deteriorated rapidly as revenue declined and legal costs mounted. Employee morale plummeted as layoffs became routine, and the company's future grew increasingly uncertain. Industry analysts who had once praised Ashton-Tate's strategic vision now questioned whether the company could survive as an independent entity. The final irony came when Fox Software, one of the companies Ashton-Tate had sued for alleged copyright infringement, became a more successful database company than Ashton-Tate itself, eventually being acquired by Microsoft for $173 million. A clear signal of where the market was heading. The end came swiftly and decisively in 1991, when Borland International acquired Ashton-Tate for approximately $440 million in stock. For Philippe Kahn's Borland, the acquisition was primarily about eliminating a competitor and acquiring Ashton-Tate's customer base rather than their technology or talent. Most of Ashton-Tate's employees were laid off shortly after the acquisition, and the dBase product line was gradually phased out in favor of Borland's own database products. The once mighty database giant had been reduced to little more than a customer list and a cautionary tale. Wayne Ratliff, the original creator whose garage project had launched the entire empire, had long since left the company and watched its demise from the sidelines. The dBase language, which had once seemed destined to become the permanent standard for PC databases, was replaced by SQL and other technologies that offered better performance and industry standardization. Ashton-Tate's brand name disappeared entirely, absorbed into Borland's corporate identity before eventually fading into computing history. The company's headquarters, once bustling with hundreds of employees working on the future of database computing, became just another empty office building in Torrance, California. The collapse of Ashton-Tate represents one of the most complete corporate failures in software history. A company that possessed every advantage yet managed to lose everything through a toxic combination of poor technical execution, misguided legal strategy, and fundamental misunderstanding of market dynamics. Their attempt to use copyright law as a business weapon not only failed, but actively accelerated their decline by alienating the very community that had made dBase successful. The dBase 4 debacle demonstrated the fatal consequences of prioritizing marketing schedules over product quality, showing how a single bad release could destroy decades of carefully built reputation. Perhaps most tragically, Ashton-Tate's downfall was entirely preventable. They had the market position, financial resources, and technical foundation to maintain their dominance indefinitely if they had focused on innovation instead of litigation and quality instead of quick profits. Their story serves as a permanent reminder that in the technology industry, dominance is always temporary. Customer trust is easily lost and difficult to regain, and companies that stop innovating inevitably become irrelevant. The database market that Ashton-Tate once ruled completely moved on without them, proving that no company, regardless of how dominant, is too big to fail when they lose sight of what made them successful in the first place.